Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Unfortunately, Keith and I not together in studio. We are back home from Summer League in Las Vegas. Not ideal, right? But somehow, some way, we'll make do.
Yeah, it's and obviously we're home from Vegas. You're in a hat. I'm completely unshaven. So yeah, we're we're both it's gonna take a little while to get used to being home and back on a semi-normal person's sleep schedule. But
Yes.
if we have time towards the end of today's show, we're gonna talk a little bit about our time out there in Las Vegas in the week. But because we didn't record for a day, obviously news piles up very quickly, and we've got quite a bit to get into.
Yeah, so we're going to reserve some time for nonsense at the end, and we'll
Yep.
have some fun with that, and we'll talk about Vegas and some wacky things that ensued there. So just hang on to the end for
It's
that.
worth it. Trust us. We had an
Yes,
adventure. That's for
some
sure.
bizarre situations that went down in Vegas, including, I guess, the fact that both of us had. I mean, your wife hurts her ankle.
Yes.
My dog breaks her leg. Like on our last day, we both have to like rush home to these situations. It was madness, but
Yeah.
um, tons for us to get into. So let's talk a little NBA, and then we can get to all the
Do it.
nonsense at the end here. And I guess let's start things off with this. LeBron James officially back for next season for the 2023-2024 season. No one was surprised by this
Yeah.
when LeBron officially announced it at the ESPYs, but no one was surprised. From the moment that he mentioned, having to think about his future and all that kind of stuff at the end of the Western Conference Finals, we all felt pretty strongly that LeBron was indeed going to be back. He wasn't going to walk away and retire at that point, particularly with Bronny so close to making it to the NBA and his stated goal of playing with Bronny and everything else that would be wrapped up in a decision like that. But we had yet to get direct confirmation from him until the ESPYs last night, and now the Lakers have some certainty moving forward that they will have LeBron on their roster next season.
Yeah, and it was very clear by the Lakers' moves this summer that they were building, feeling good that he was going to play. They otherwise, I think they would have been far more aggressive and maybe going after other options. That might have fit, with a different path if LeBron wasn't going to be there. But it's always tough, right? At the end of a long season, when he was hurting, very clearly was still in some pain, and that's a hard thing at this point, this deep into his career. I'm sure every end of season, there's at least a thought of like, man, do I want to do this again in a few months? Like, have to start the whole process again. And he's talked, it's something I know he's actually referenced Tom Brady's things about how, like, as you get older, you have to start the process earlier, right? Because it takes that much longer to get yourself ready to go for the season. So that's just something to factor in. But yeah, he'll be back. Lakers are looking strong. I think the roster looks. I don't know what percentage better, but considerably better to start next season than it did to start last season. So yeah, it's they should be gearing up for what they hope is another big run. Hopefully not through the play-in tournament and everything else along the way.
Yes, yeah, that would certainly be ideal. Now, Keith, from an outside perspective, let me ask you, do you think they did enough to where LeBron doesn't have to this season, ideally, push down on the turbo button in December and in January, like we saw this past season? Do you think that they've done enough to allow him to, I don't know if coast is the right word, but not have to exert so much energy during the season?
Yeah, I think combination of that, also a sense of, okay, your ankle's bugging you a little bit. Take the night off. You don't need to play. And I think that's a big part of signing guys like D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, obviously Austin Reeves. You now know with Austin Reeves too. I think there was a sense in the regular season maybe he could do a little bit more, but it's very hard for a second year guy to throw him the ball in the regular season, be like, hey, go be the man. And there were times that they got forced into that. And then in the playoffs, he showed, hey, I can do more. Like, give it to me and put it on me. So now I think you just go in with all these that many more data points, I guess is the best way to put it, where you do feel better, whether it's LeBron or AD. Because obviously, when it matters, you're only going as far as those guys healthy can take you. But you got to get through the other 82 games first. And now you have a much better sense of, all right, hey, if they need to miss a game or two, we're not relying on, all right, Russ, take 35 shots tonight and hopefully some of them go in, right? It's now it's all right, we feel like we can get through. It's tougher, of course. But yeah, I think their moves set them up in a better place to be able to sustain any missed time, or even if it's just, I don't even want to call it load management, just management of both LeBron and AD. AD a little tougher, right? Still probably need one more big, but they'll figure that part out.
And I'm expecting to see a LeBron that looks, it's strange to say it, but a LeBron that looks better than the guy that we saw in the Western Conference Finals, even though he still found ways to be effective. But people will look at him and just say, well, that's what he is now because he's 38, he's going to be 39. Yeah, he's not going to be his 28-year-old self, but he
Sure.
was also dealing with an active injury at that point. So I would expect that at the start of this season, assuming the foot injury is fully healed, which we should assume that it will be, he's going to look a bit more spry than the guy that we last saw out there on the floor. Again, he's still going to be turning 39 this season. It doesn't mean he's suddenly going to be 28-year-old LeBron James. It's not going to happen. But I think there is certainly a world where LeBron looks significantly better than what we saw during the playoffs here. And then if the Lakers can find a way to sustain that level of health from him so that come playoff time next year, he can be ready to go and not managing an active injury, that could make all the difference in the world for them.
Absolutely. And I don't want to say that they didn't take the early part of the season serious, but I think you're
Yeah.
going to see teams take a little bit more care in these early season games. I think this also applies to the Clippers, where the Clippers, they did their load management thing all year long. And then you get to the end of the year and it just didn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Kawhi still got hurt. Paul George still got hurt. So I think you're going to see those teams say, you know what? It's too hard to. That was our conversation with the Lakers months before the playoffs started. One was like, all right, they've dug out of being in the bottom of the conference. They're now going to be in the postseason picture. But the conversation was, are you going to have enough left after having to win in the play-in, then win on the road, then win on the road, then win on the road, and now you get to the finals and you saw it felt like to me more than anything else, they ran into a very good Denver team. But
Mm-hmm.
second to that was the Lakers just had nothing left. They ran out of
Yeah.
gas. They just had not really nothing left to give. It was, and that's why, the Nuggets kind of moved forward the way they did. And I think it's, a part of it is if we win a handful more games, those earlier round series aren't going to be so grueling and taxing. We're not going to have to play those extra games in the play in, which are also, fraught with, man, we have a bad shooting night and all of a sudden it could just be over.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to really be in a spot where it's, all right, let's, do a little bit more. So I'm very curious to see it now. I think they've got the weapons to kind of do that and manage through whatever comes because they had, such a strong offseason.
And the West projects to be even better next season. It's going to be a gauntlet. So
Yeah.
we'll see how all that plays out if the
The
Lakers did enough.
division
But
is
oh my
crazy,
God, like
right?
that.
There's not a bad team in the division,
Stop
right?
going west, everyone. My
Yeah,
goodness.
in as far west as you can, apparently.
Yeah.
Like you can't even count on the Kings anymore, right? You can't even be like, oh,
No.
there's 4 division wins, right? Or
Yep.
3 if we stumble in one. Like they're good. The Suns are going to be one of the best teams in the league. I think we're both still fairly high on the Clippers,
Sure.
even with everything considered. And the Warriors aren't going away. So obviously one of those teams will probably have the wheels come off season and everything just falls apart for them. But as it stands right now, that's got to be the strongest division. We're not going to spend time on that right now,
No.
but it feels like we're in a spot where that's pretty close.
Okay, let's jump over to your Celtics. Jaylen Brown contract not completed. Um, I thought once he made second team All NBA, Supermax, here you go. Or are the Celtics trying to negotiate this a little bit and say, well, we're going to pay you a little bit less than Supermax? What's going on here?
Yeah, we don't really know. The reporting's been a little uh I don't want to say mixed, but it's just a little kind of curious on this stuff where it's everything is, and I heard this direct from people involved at Summer League is, yeah, it's going to get done. We're just working
Hmm.
through some deal points. And generally it is, all right, I qualified for the Supermax. Give me the most money. Give me a player option on the end. Let's throw a trade bonus on there if we can, and let's move it forward. And in this case, that hasn't happened, right? We're recording this on July 13th. So we're 13 days into when they could have offered this because they could have offered it at midnight on July 1st, like right as the calendar ticked over and it didn't happen. And now it makes you wonder, is it, hey, can you do 33% instead of 35% of the
Mm-hmm.
cap? That'll give us, a little wiggle room. All right, but what if you do that, but we give you a player option? Okay, you don't want to give on that. How about the trade bonus? That's my things. Is it, can you do 33% and then we'll put incentives in there that can bring you up to the full amount? And I think if you're Jaylen Brown, you're like, I did that on my last deal. I don't know that I want to do that on this deal. So every reporting piece out there, Adam Himmelsbach of the Boston Globe has done a nice job kind of tracking this, and the reports he's getting match what everybody else is hearing. This will get done, but they're negotiating some stuff. But again, we're almost 2 weeks in now and it's not done. And that at least raises my eyebrow a little bit as to why.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what exactly is going on. And look, we even saw it, not to go back to the Lakers, but like D'Angelo Russell, everybody was going, "Why is this deal not officially signed?" He was on vacation. Like sometimes it's just there's stuff that goes down, but it doesn't mean there's something nefarious going on. Sometimes it's
Now
just
JB was
logistics.
in Vegas though, so we do know that. Like Jaylen
That's
Brown was
that's
in Vegas,
true.
so it's not like he was off in the far reaches of Antarctica or something.
I'm
That
I'm
was like
I'm just
couldn't
saying
get
that
there. Yeah,
that
there's
that
stuff.
fans immediately jump to maybe
Yeah,
that means there's a trade brewing and
yep,
something is happening and they're trying it's all this it's this conspiracy behind they're trying to
yep.
keep things under wraps. It's probably nothing as exciting as that, but nonetheless it is something to pay attention to.
To that point, I reported on the Grant Williams contract, which was kind of cool because I was able to get the information I needed and reported on that from the plane, which was a whole new experience for me
Oh,
to do that. But it was fun, and instantly it was a bunch of people. Oh, I guess the deal's not being expanded. Then there was apparently, which unbeknownst to me, and I think everybody who watches this, listens, or follows me on Twitter knows I'm pretty online. Like I'm online all the time, but I wasn't at Summer League because you're running around. And for
yeah.
me, I'm trying to conserve my phone battery because I need to do things like unlock my hotel room door and
Right.
get an Uber back to my hotel and those kind of things. So I'm not playing on my phone as constantly as I would be. But it was one of those things where as I was talking with some putting that out there was apparently this whole undercurrent on social media of it hasn't happened yet because they're going to expand it and bring in other teams and the trade's going to get bigger and all this stuff that people had dreamed up and imagined. And the
Mhm.
reality was it just didn't get done yet because there's other stuff that both sides had kind of prioritized. And for Boston, one of them was, all right, we got to hammer out the Kristaps Porzingis extension, and then on the Mavs side it was, all right, we got to wrap Kyrie's deal up, we got to finish our moves with the Kings and all those other things. So sometimes things just they take a little bit. That's really the end of the story. To your point is there's not always a lot of other things happening.
We dream up all this fantastic stuff that's going on. I don't know. Galactus secretly appears in the background of the Avengers movie or something like that. And most of the time, it doesn't come true. And then sometimes you really do, and you get all three Spider-Men in one movie. And so that's what
Yep,
keeps this stuff going on, right? Where we keep saying, "Oh, it's the NBA. Anything could happen," but most of the time, it's not anything too crazy
absolutely.
that's happening there. But it is something to kind of pay attention to there. And like you said, Vegas, and we'll get into Vegas in a bit, but you're right. Conserving your phone battery. It's the game within the game within the game because that can be a challenge in and of itself in Las Vegas. That's for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yes, it is.
Okay, we talked about D'Angelo Russell and him being the first player to waive the de facto or implied no trade clause that comes with signing what the league would see as a 1-year deal, a second-year option on the deal. Trading a player under such a situation would involve the player losing their bird rights, and so as a result, the player gets the ability to veto a trade. The new CBA allows you to go in and actually remove that bit from it. So the player no longer has that ability to veto, which D'Angelo Russell, again, being the first player to do that. And now Mo Wagner has done the same thing with the Orlando Magic. And, it doesn't shock me that it's Orlando that did this because we already saw them structure the contracts of Mo Bamba, Gary Harris to be very, very trade friendly. Now, it
Yep.
didn't exactly pay off for them, but obviously this is an organization that thinks along those lines. And so it doesn't shock me that that Orlando was a team that managed to take advantage of this.
Yeah, in Orlando, what part of what they did in the Wagner contract is it's 8 million each of the next 2 seasons flat. And part of what you do in a situation like that is you get yourself to a place where it is that becomes very tradable salary, right? Because because it's a team option for next season. By next season, we mean we're already in this season. This is now 23-24. So 24-25 is next season. So when you get into that team option, and it's a true team option, not a non-guarantee, you could trade him at the trade deadline and the other team can get out free and clear. It's just $8 million in matching salary, and that gets you where you need to be. But in order to do that and not have him block, he needs to waive it. So that could be much like we speculated with D'Angelo Russell. There could have been a little, hey, we'll throw a little extra in there for you if you'll do this and give us that flexibility as the team. So, Mo Wagner, and I'm not speculating at all that means he'll definitely be traded, but Orlando's going to try to be good this year. They're going to try to push forward, try to make, run it, at the very least, the play-in tournament, if not a top 6 spot and in the playoffs. So I think for them, having $8 million in tradable salary, that's a good thing to have. By the time you get there to the end, and off you go. So it's going to be kind of, something just to file away and keep an eye on. And there's under no circumstances can he say, nope, don't want to go there. He's lost that ability now. Or let's be positive about it. He negotiated that away for something else.
Yes.
In this contract, probably slightly more money maybe than he would have got otherwise.
All right. Zion Williamson also talked about his own ability to improve. He was on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, who we got to meet in Las Vegas. Cool guy. Who he talked a bit about his ability to improve his health in terms of staying on the floor, his conditioning, all of that. You expect him. Obviously, he had some stuff going on off the court, some stuff that spilled onto social media, of course, over the last few weeks and all of that. But in terms of the on-the-court basketball stuff, this is what you expect to be hearing in the summer. With Zion, though, it's good to hear, no question. But the only way there's only one thing he can do, and that's prove it this coming season.
Mm-hmm. And I think with Zion, what's important is him recognizing it, right? That it's not good. He's not necessarily hasn't been in the best place in all these things. It was very clear he wants people to know, hey, I'm not sitting out just to sit out. I want to play. I want to be on the floor. When I'm missing these things. And this rings true, especially I think you can probably agree with this as we're both home from Vegas now, and it gets a little tough out there on us older guys. He said part of what he has to lose is that feeling of invincibility that comes when you're a teenager and you're 18, 19 of nothing can ever touch me. I'll never get hurt. And he's like, now I realize I have to do things differently. I'm a little bit older. I can't just eat whatever I want and then go do whatever. And he basically said hey, I'm trying to be better and to get to where I need to be on the court, which is huge. I mean, that alone is different than where we've kind of been, in the past. So I think that's, a really great thing to see there. And he's talking about, improving his flexibility and all those other things, that go along with this. And this was my favorite quote. He says, Coach K taught me, I have to own up to my responsibilities. There are a lot of things I could have done better. I didn't. I'm in the process of fixing those wrongs.
Well,
that's cool, right?
For him.
I mean, good for him. I mean, he's still a young guy, right? And it takes a lot of people a lot later in life to realize those things than he did. So I think that's really good for him.
Absolutely. All right. We already had our shocking news of the day in LeBron returning. Let's get into our second absolutely shocking news story. The Knicks are trying to trade Evan Fournier. Not a surprise at all, of course. But I don't. There hasn't been much of a market there. He's an expiring now this coming season, so maybe they find something there. He's always struck me as the kind of guy that he's salary matching in a bigger deal.
Yeah,
and I think we're kind of hitting the part of the year where, aside from a James Harden trade, something like that goes down, we see one of those kind of moves, like a superstar level trade, actually happened. Of course, a Damian Lillard trade. Unless the Knicks get involved in something like that, it's hard to foresee another big move that's out there really for the Knicks.
Yeah, Damian Lillard doesn't make a ton of sense. They've got Jalen Brunson, and none of this is to say Jalen Brunson is at the level of Damian Lillard or James Harden, because he's not, but he's also not he's miles and miles away either. He's very good himself. So if you're the Knicks and you have him for half the cost of those guys, hey, well, we're happy to have that, right? And move our team the way we feel. So yeah, with Fournier, and I was told while we were out in Vegas, he thought he was going to be traded this summer.
Hmm.
There was a sense of like, there was an idea of, hey, he'll be somewhere else, and he just wants to play. I mean, he's not 35 years old. He's a guy who feels like he can still contribute and still be a positive guy. I mean, this is a guy, Celtics fans were super excited about only a few seasons ago, getting him at the trade deadline, and Knicks fans were excited to sign him in free agency. It just hasn't worked out. So we're gonna watch this, but yeah, my guess is this probably gets tabled until around the trade deadline, and he's just back racking up DNPs on the Knicks, because that's a pretty, after adding DiVincenzo, that's a pretty loaded guard and wing group now there in New York.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe they wind up being the third team in a deal with an expiring or so, but we'll see ultimately what happens. Another transaction took place. The Heat guaranteed Haywood Highsmith's contract. Now the Heat, they've been kind of reluctant to do a whole lot. We saw them; they let Gabe Vincent, Max Strus go because they're right now in that holding pattern, waiting to see what happens with Damian Lillard. But this was something that they were able to accomplish.
Yeah, one of the only teams in the league that hasn't added new big signing or trade acquisition. Most teams have done at least one or the other through the course of this, and they did add a couple minimum signings. Josh Richardson, old friend there in Miami, and then they brought in Thomas Bryant, and those are great signings for them. I think those were really good depth additions for the Heat. They obviously drafted Jaime Jaquez Jr. as well, so they've done some stuff, but obviously they're in a holding pattern, right? They want Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard wants the Heat, so we'll see if they can get there. I think that's our next topic, is maybe something will help them get there, right?
Yeah, so let's go there. Multiple teams are interested in Tyler Herro and would be willing to give up a first in order to get him. I mean, that's critical, right? I mean, Tyler Herro would have to be part of a package for Damian Lillard. At least you would have to think he would be involved. So when we're looking at Miami and their ability to land Lillard, I think it's going to have to be a 3-team trade or maybe more. It's going to have to. So you're going to need a team because especially if you're Portland, with the pieces that they've got, doesn't make sense to bring Tyler Herro in. So you need a team that's going to be willing to give up serious assets in order to get him. So this is important for Miami, that they have multiple teams interested in him. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to ultimately lead to a deal or that it's getting done. Again, we talked about this in Vegas, that the Blazers are telling everybody, we're willing to wait. We're not in any rush to do this. And we talked about how important of a decision it is for the Portland Trail Blazers to get this right. But nonetheless, multiple teams interested in Tyler Herro, a good thing for Miami, and probably tells you where the information's coming from as well.
yeah. There's that part of it too. Yeah. And I think if you're the Heat, you're just kind of looking at it as, hey, we can add, a guy here and get, or trade a guy, get a pick or two. Those picks immediately become things we can reroute to Portland. Or maybe it becomes, all right, it's only one pick, but we also get this semi-interesting younger player, and maybe Portland has an interest in a guy like that. And I had people ask me, why does Portland not just take Tyler Herro? And it's not really about Tyler Herro the player. It's really more about Tyler Herro's position and his contract, because he's under a long-term contract where Portland already has Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe, two guys who play that same spot. And you can't play all those guys together. You might be able to play 3 of them if Sharpe's playing like the 3, but playing 4 of them together just isn't going to happen. And then, you could start to dream up, 4 and 5 team trades and all that. And maybe I shouldn't say those things don't happen, because we did have a 5-team trade, but they are kind of rare that they go down that way. But it is kind of, one of those things where it's Portland, I think, has basically told, my read on this from all what I've heard and all the reporting is, Portland told Miami, hey, figure it out and come back to us, right? Like don't come back to us until you have a better offer to give right now. And I know some people are saying, well, then are they getting a better offer from anybody else? That's not the conversation. It's not a good enough offer for Portland. As we said in Vegas, from the studio at Blue Wire Studios, you can only trade Damian Lillard once. You don't get to redo this if it doesn't go the way you want it to. So you can only do it once, and you better get it right.
It's not, is this offer better than someone else's? It's, is this offer acceptable to the Blazers? Is it enough for them to say yes? Again, remember, he's under contract for years here. I mean, this is, so in theory, the Blazers could Kevin Durant this thing and just say, no, we're not going to make this trade. So
Yep.
we'll
I
see.
don't think it's gonna get there. I think
No, I
something
don't
will
think
get
so
there.
either.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it is, but yeah, they're Portland holds the cards here. They've got the control.
Yeah. All right, let's get into let's do the other trade request. James Harden reiterates his trade request. Again, some of this might be negotiated through the media here because you get reports and then counter reports and all that. Like sounded like, well, maybe Harden is willing to come back to Philly. Then you get the little bit out. No, actually, he still wants to be traded. I still think ultimately a deal gets done. He probably winds up going to the Clippers. That seems to be where this is ultimately going to head. But again, this is also just what happens in this process where you get reports and then counter reports and counter reports and back and forth you go.
Yeah, a really good reporting on this from Sam Amick. It's Sam Amick over at the Athletic. He had some good stuff, just of like Harden hasn't budged, and said like Harden really wants the Clippers. Like that's where he wants to be. And the Clippers matching the salary for them, not really all that hard. They've got 2-3 guys they could send to Philly, and it's a Philly team that could now use some depth. They've lost some really quality rotation guys out of their group there, and it's not quite the same team as it was before. And I think that's where Philly and Miami, one of the things Sam called out in his piece, both of those teams have kind of sat waiting on these trades to happen while free agents have flown off the board, and now we're down to it. And that's where I think a handful of those free agents that are left, they might be looking at it and saying, all right, hey, if the money's going to be the minimum anywhere, or a chunk of the non-tax, or chunk of an exception, I should say, not the non-tax player, but it's all going to be roughly the same money. All right, I'd rather be there because I can play a real role. I can maybe push towards winning or something like that. So that becomes a little bit of a different story.
All right. Let's finish up with this. The Pacers are looking for a modern power forward. What does that mean? A modern power? I'm assuming it means not Horace Grant, not the 15-foot and in type of power forward. A guy that can initiate the offense a little bit if need be, a guy that can step behind the arc a little bit if need be, a guy like Pascal Siakam, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, quite possibly. Yeah, it's funny because I saw some people say, why would they go get him? They just traded for Obi Toppin. They also have Jarris Walker coming in. Why would you go trade for Pascal Siakam? And my thing is, why not? If you can get them in a reasonable enough package, there's enough minutes for all those guys, because Siakam can play at the 5. We've seen him do it quite a bit. The Pacers play a semi non-traditional guy at the 5 anyway, Miles Turner. So why not, if you need to downsize and play Siakam there in small ball lineups and do all the different things. To me too, the Pacers part of it is this signals they kind of had their step back moment over the last year or so. Now let's start pushing back towards trying to be a good team and trying to win. They've got Tyrese Halliburton locked up. I like Siakam there too. If he becomes kind of your second guy, he becomes almost like a playmaker, ish guy that can do a lot of stuff, run the offense through him. And, it's had moments where he's been a pretty good shooter. He's had moments where that's kind of gone the other way. But for the most part, yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense for the Pacers to push this, even though they drafted a guy that we know they like. And I'm starting to wonder if they see Walker more as a 3 than they do as a 4, which is not maybe the worst thing in the world. We'll see how that kind of develops, and then there should still be plenty of minutes for Obi Toppin to get out there and do his thing. So Pacers are looking like a fun team. They've got some stuff going on there,
and it tells you they're not looking at this and saying, hey, we're just going to be a lottery team again. They want to make a push here. And we'll see if they can do it. All right, Keith, are you ready for scheduled nonsense? Las Vegas nonsense here. Where do you want to start? Like, we've got so much to talk about here. I guess first and foremost, Summer League is fantastic. It was fantastic as always. I always recommend going out and checking it out. If you haven't been, doesn't mean you have to go for a week. Go for a day. Go for 2 days. Just get to the arena and there's players, every hotel, every casino. There's players walking around all over the place. You're going to see everybody out there in Las Vegas. So that in and of itself makes it a blast. But you and I got into some interesting situations. You want to talk about the Caesars?
Oh, goodness. All right, so let's explain this. This was whatever our last full day in Las Vegas. We
Yeah.
finished our show over at the Win at the Blue Wire Studios, and we wrapped up. And a lot of people left from there because guys
Mhm.
were headed home. So we kind of all said our goodbyes and everything, and then we immediately raced over to catch our buddies Mark Stein and Chris Haynes do their podcast live from Caesar's Palace. So we jump in the Uber, no problem getting one, and off we go. And the Uber driver, obviously very familiar with the area, is like, "Huh, weird. The police have that road blocked. All right, I'll take you down to the other side. We'll let you know where. Huh, they have that road blocked too." Then he proceeds to drive in an area where definitely we had no business being, in like a loading dock. And we get hotel security. He comes over and is literally, "What are you doing here? Get out of here. Don't you see all the police cars?" And he's like, "I'm trying to drop these guys off. Can I just drop them off here?" And they're like, "No, there's a police situation." So he proceeds to drive us down a side street, alley, something, and
Yeah.
says, "Hey, go in this door and then walk down a hallway and go in another door. You'll be right out there in
Like
the
an unmarked door on the
yeah."
outside. I'm like, okay.
Now, keep in mind, there are police literally everywhere. We probably should have been smarter and not done what we did, but we're like, okay,
That occurred
Uber
to me
driver
once we
guy.
got in. I'm like,
Yeah,
should that have been our
yeah,
warning that we shouldn't
yeah.
have been here?
But I guess our excuse was the Uber driver said it's okay, right? He talked to
Yeah.
police presence, I think. So we get inside. Now we're inside and we're looking. We're seeing police run around. We're hearing reports of SWAT teams in the hotel. Essentially, what happened was a hotel guest or somebody, he took a woman hostage in the hotel. Nowhere near, thankfully, where we were. We weren't anywhere close to this, but the hotel kind of went on lockdown. No one was really getting in. No one was getting out.
Except for us. We got in.
Except for us. Yeah, I know Uber driver who
Adventurous Uber
pushed it,
driver.
right, made it happen. Yeah, his intrepidness, and yeah, so we end up there in a spot where, all right, we're in. We watched the show with Haynes and Stein, and had a good time, watching their show and chit chatted for a while after, and then realized we probably can't leave right now. So we made the best of it. We grabbed a pretty good lunch and hung out for a while and did that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was definitely an adventure, and hearing the reports of what was going on. Mere floors above us, on another section of the hotel, but just absolute madness.
They evacuated the pool deck because he had busted
Yes,
out his window and was
yeah.
throwing stuff out the window and
And he's
everything.
on
So
like he was on like the
and
25th or 28th floor or
yeah,
something too.
and we're
Yeah.
telling this story right after telling everyone, "Go to Vegas, it's awesome,"
Yeah,
right?
right?
And this is all happening, of course, but so we are at the Haynes and Stein thing, and we are, on our phones just following all the news updates
Yeah.
from this, and I made the mistake of sending that to my wife and then waiting a minute or 2 before sending back, "I'm okay, though." And
See, yeah, you had to send it.
yeah,
I started with
I messed
"We're
up.
okay"
Yeah.
in my message with,
I
"We're okay, but there's some madness going on at Caesars," which my response back was, "Call me when you can." I called and she's like, "All right, you're okay." All right, well, I'm not. I broke my ankle. My wife unfortunately had an accident and broke her ankle. So we're, dealing with all this, madness and foolishness and everything else while we're out there. But all that said, all that craziness, go to Summer League if you ever
Mhm.
have the chance. The coolest thing is 8 games a day being played. There's 4 games in one gym, 4 games in the other gym. And when I say gym, it is literally across the concourse from each other. You buy one ticket, you're allowed into both gyms. You can bounce back and forth as much as you want. It's not like you got to get in the car and drive anywhere or go anywhere.
Mhm.
You can literally just walk over and check out the other game. It's so cool. If you have kids who are into it, this is the best chance they're ever going to get to see, NBA players, up close and personal, because you can really get right down on the floor. I like the smaller gym, the Cox Pavilion, a little bit more because it's basically like a small college gymnasium. It's like
Yep.
their practice gym at UNLV, I think. And then Thomas and Mack is your traditional arena type setting, but you're also going to sit closer because it's almost all general admission. There's a couple restrictions to that, but yeah, absolute phenomenal time. Great time out in Vegas.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. And I know we're running short on time here today, but we'll have other stories and stuff from Vegas. We'll talk a little bit about the studio and what it
Yeah.
was like getting to record together in person and all that. But that'll be on, maybe we could talk about that on our live show tomorrow or something. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Perfect.
All right. Well, let's wrap things up there, everybody. Again, you know what? We had actually somebody come up to us at Summer League and say, "Go, hey, the best kept secret."
We did. We
Please,
did. He
let's
heard
get
the two of us talking. We weren't even
yes.
doing the show. And he's like, I recognize those voices. And then I turned around. It was you guys. So yeah, that was funny.
So please, let's be able to get rid of that nickname, and let's no longer be the best kept secret. Tell a friend about the NBA front office show. Make sure you are subscribing here to the YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. All right, everybody. Till next time. Stay safe and see you.